Queen Zarathea of the Crystalline Dominion had always prided herself on her ability to read people. As ruler of 12 star systems and commander of fleets that could shatter planets, she had negotiated with warlords, outwitted merchants, and seen through the facades of countless ambitious courtiers, yet somehow she had completely misjudged the quiet human who had become her husband. David Thompson had arrived on her homeworld of Veltar as part of a small diplomatic mission 3 cycles ago. While the other human ambassadors postured and made grand speeches about trade agreements, David had simply tended to the embassy gardens and helped with minor administrative tasks. He spoke softly, moved without hurry, and seemed genuinely content to remain in the background while more prominent figures handled the negotiations. What had drawn Zarathea to him was precisely this humility. After decades of dealing with beings who sought her power, her wealth, or her influence, she found David's lack of ambition refreshing. He asked for nothing, expected nothing, and appeared genuinely surprised when she began spending time with him in the gardens, discussing the simple pleasure of watching things grow. Their courtship had been gentle and unhurried. David never pressed, for advantages or political gain. When she proposed marriage, he had actually suggested she think it over more carefully, worried that a simple human wouldn't be suitable for someone of her station. The other members of her court had whispered about the strange match, but Zarathea had been certain she had found something rare, a being who loved her for herself, not her crown. Now, as she watched her husband move through the corridors of her flagship with deadly precision, she realized she might have been the one who was naive. The Skorath pirates had made a critical error when they attacked the diplomatic convoy returning from the Outer Rim negotiations. They had assumed that Queen Zarathea's small escort fleet would be an easy target, especially with several high-ranking officials aboard. What they hadn't counted on was David happening to be in the ship's security center when the attack began, helping the technical staff with some routine maintenance on the environmental systems. The first indication that something was amiss came when the ship's security chief collapsed, a Skorath neural disruptor dart protruding from his neck. The pirates had somehow managed to board during the initial chaos, their stealth technology allowing them to bypass the outer defenses. As alarms began blaring and the crew scrambled to respond, Zarathea had expected to evacuate David to a secure location. Instead, she watched in stunned silence as her quiet, gentle husband calmly picked up the fallen security chief's weapon and began issuing orders with the crisp authority of someone long accustomed to command. "Seal bulkheads 7 through 12, he instructed the bewildered security staff. "Route emergency power to the internal sensor array, and someone get me a tactical readout of the boarding parties." "David," Zarathea started, "you should stay behind me, Your Majesty," he said, and there was something in his voice she had never heard before. Something that made seasoned warriors unconsciously straighten and listen. These aren't ordinary pirates. This is a coordinated assault by professionals. The young security officer manning the tactical station looked confused. "Sir, with respect, you're not in our chain of command." David's eyes never left the security monitors as he spoke. "Lieutenant, I'm a retired colonel in the Terran Special Operations Command. I've conducted boarding actions on 17 different ship classes, including this one. Right now, I'm the most qualified person on this vessel to keep your queen alive. Are you going to argue protocol or are you going to help me do my job?" Zarathea felt her breath catch. Special Operations Command. She knew that designation. Humans had made quite a reputation for themselves in the galactic community, and their special forces were whispered about in the same tones usually reserved for natural disasters. The security team, faced with David's calm competence and the alternative of facing the pirates with no clear leadership, quickly fell in line. Within minutes, her husband had transformed the confused, frightened crew into an organized defensive unit. "They'll hit the bridge first," David explained as he guided a small team through the maintenance corridors. "Standard Skorath doctrine is to capture leadership and use them as leverage, but they're expecting typical palace guards, not military resistance." Zarathea followed close behind, watching in fascination as David moved through her ship with an intimate knowledge of its layout that he had never revealed. Every decision he made was precise, economical, and devastatingly effective. When they encountered the first group of Skorath boarders, David's response was so swift and clinical that the pirates barely had time to register the threat before they were neutralized. "How do you know my ship so well?" she asked as they paused at a junction. David's smile was apologetic but tinged with something that might have been embarrassment. "I may have spent some time reviewing the technical specifications when we were first assigned to your world. Old habits. Old habits of a gardener and administrative assistant. Old habits of someone who spent 20 years making sure human diplomats came home alive from places that didn't necessarily want them to." The full picture began to crystallize in Zarathia's mind. David's frequent absences, which he had explained as consulting work for the embassy, his uncanny ability to anticipate problems before they arose, the way he seemed to know exactly which members of her court could be trusted and which bore watching. Even his gardening. She now realized he had systematically improved the security, sightlines around the embassy grounds while making them more beautiful. The remaining Skorath pirates were neutralized with methodical efficiency. David anticipated their every move, countered their tactics, and systematically dismantled their operation piece by piece. By the time the escort ships arrived to assist, the threat had been entirely eliminated. Later, in the privacy of their quarters, Zarathia confronted her husband. "Were you ever going to tell me?" David was back to his gentle, soft-spoken manner, but she could now see the steel underneath. "I retired, Zara. That life was behind me. I wanted to be the man you fell in love with, not the soldier I used to be. You thought I would love you less? I thought you might love me for the wrong reasons." He took her hands in his. "You married a gardener who helped with paperwork, not a warrior." Zarathia smiled, finally understanding. "My dear husband, I married a man who protected what he cared about. The fact that you're terrifyingly competent at it just makes me love you more." David chuckled. "In that case, I should probably mention that I've been working on some improvements to your palace security system. Just as a hobby, you understand."